Okay, I want to do a video on the use of a signal when we move off. It came up in a question the other day with a learner, and she said to me, why do I always need to do a proper right signal on them when we want to move off? It's a good question, really, really good question. It's worthy of just a couple of minutes just talking about why we do need to, if we do need to signal, why we do it. So the answer to the question is no, we don't necessarily always bung a right signal on. That's the first thing to say. We don't robotically always put a right signal on because sometimes there is no one to benefit from that signal. So see this blue car just coming my way, they'd benefit from a signal. See this pedestrian coming on the left hand side on the footpath coming towards me, he'd benefit from a signal. He might, for all I know, he might be considering crossing the road. So yeah, see what he's doing there? Look, he's just stopped there. I don't know. Anyway, so thinking to yourself, right, is there anyone who would benefit from a signal is quite an important aspect of this. Another thing about it is the timing of the signal, actually, when you do it. My advice is to do the observations. Remember, from I'm parked over here on the left hand side of the road near the curb, and before I move off into the normal driving position, I've got to do those observations, haven't I? The observations that we talk about on the lessons. And part of that systematic way that we do the observations is not just checking to see it's safe for me to go, but also it's an assessment of whether a signal is required. So those observations are doing two things. One is checking it's safe for me to go, and secondly, whether a signal is necessary. As a general rule for you, you do the observations. If a signal is required, the signal should be the last thing that goes on before you move off. And the reason why I say that is because let's say that I thought to myself, oh, I'm going to move off now, I'm going to pop the right signal on. So I bung the right signal on. I look in my central mirror and there's, say, 3 cars coming towards me fairly close behind. So therefore I'm not going to go now. I've still got that right indicator clicking, and I'm ticking away. Tick, 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 tick. So the 3 cars behind me now approaching towards me are seeing a right signal. They might be thinking, are you moving off then, are you, mate? So it could be confusing, it could be misleading to people. So think about the timing of things, really. If you do the observations first and you see the 3 cars, then after the 3 cars there might be a break in traffic. So you look at that and go, well, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to wait for these 3 cars to move off, and then I'm finishing off my observations, and then I'll be thinking whether a signal comes on or not. So having a little thought about the timing of things is a good thing to do, good habit to get into. One other thing I would want to mention about this, have you noticed that since this video's been on, there's been breaks in the traffic in terms of the direction of traffic I'm going, the direction that I'm actually looking at? There's breaks in the traffic, and that's nice. That is because when the 3 cars just went past there. If I was moving off, I'd be going now, and then I've got 1 coming now. Look, so I'd be going off now. And while you get those breaks in the traffic, it's lovely and everything's good because you can fit into it without really affecting other people. But there are some places in the UK, in the big cities, London, etc., where you literally do not get any breaks in that traffic at all. It is a continuous stream of traffic, and when that happens, then you do have to have a bit more of a flexible approach to this signal, because if you were to, if your frame of mind was you're going to think to yourself, well, clearly there's no point in me signalling at the moment because there isn't a gap for me to move off, then you're going to sit there for the rest of the day, which could take not a great idea. So in those circumstances, they're fairly rare, if I'm being honest. It doesn't happen often, but in the major cities, it's rush hour, where there is no break in the traffic, then when you pop on a right signal, you are in effect, it's a requesting signal. It's saying to people behind the vehicle, the drivers behind, will somebody please just acknowledge, recognise that I'm actually wanting to move off here, and could somebody let me come out, please? And so your job is, if you are putting one of those types of right indicator signal on, your job is to keep your eyes peeled there, because inevitably somebody will be considerate enough to let you come out. They'll come off the gas. They may flash you. They may use their hands to say, yeah, go on, go on. And your job is to see that nice and early, really, so that you don't inconvenience people. What they don't really want to happen is they get slower and slower, and you're still not moving off. And they're getting slower and slower, and you're still not moving off. They're flashing you. Meanwhile, there's vehicles behind them who are now thinking, come on, mate, what are you waiting for? They don't know that this driver is waiting to let you come out. And so you are now causing a hazard, aren't you? So if you are going to put that requesting signal on, it's very important that you stay switched on and look for when somebody does actually allow you to come out. So it doesn't really crop up much, this subject, that problem. As you can see here, look, there'd be loads of opportunities here where you just be patient, you just wait for, look, 1, 2, just wait for that. Now I'd now be doing all my full obs, considering whether the right signal is on. I would need one for that silver car there, and now I'd be moving off. And there we are. So I hope that helps a little bit. It's funny, you know, because this is, as with all signals, it's a relatively minor subject, really, because it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's not the end of the world. But you will be surprised, you know. You will be surprised. If you can have a signal, driving fault for a signal, which on the face of it might be just what used to be called a minor driving fault. But actually, the consequence of it, if it's misleading, if it confuses people, it can be quite a big deal. And so pay attention to this sort of level of detail, you know. It's nice. The opposite of it is if somebody just reverts to quite a sort of a lazy way of dealing with this, and they just think to themselves, well, do you know what, I can't be bothered with all that assessment that Tom's going on about. What I'm going to do is, when I move off, I'm just going to bung a right signal on every time. And then, you know, so what, I don't really care. And I just think that's really a shame to see that, especially on test, because you know, an examiner must look at that and think, oh God, blimey, well, this person just bungs the right signal on regardless, really. And it's just a sort of, you know, let's get it good. Let's not give driving faults away like confetti, you know. Let's pay attention to it. This is the best driving you're going to do. This is, and you know, we want the standard to be really, really high. And so, you know, paying a bit of attention as to why we're doing driving actions, I think is, you know, a good habit to get into. Anyway, any questions at all? Bung it on the video below, or just ask away when you next see me.